Good morning, everyone, and it's good to see you all here today. Well, this week we'll be starting a new field of study. We'll be looking at the Heart Sutra. Now, the Heart Sutra is the most commonly recited sutra in the Mahayana tradition, and it has been for centuries. If you go to any Zen temple, here or abroad, you're very likely to hear a recitation of the Heart Sutra. And it's usually not just read, it's usually chanted. So to give you a taste of that, I'll be playing a short video. And to give credit where credit is due, I've taken this from a YouTube that is on a YouTube channel called At Global Wellbeing, which is associated with another YouTube channel called Compassion Matters, and both of these are have to do with chronic fatigue syndrome, um, uh, myopathies that are associated with chronic fatigue syndrome, and that sort of thing. Um, and but the particular version of the Heart Sutra that is read is in English, and it is in a very typical manner to what is encountered in English-speaking Zen centers. So I thought it would be a good example.
stopping, no path, no cognition, also no attainment, with nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva depends on Prajnaparamita, and his mind is no hindrance. Without any hindrance, no fears exist, far apart from every perverted view. He dwells in nirvana, in the three worlds. All Buddhas depend on Prajnaparamita and attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore know that Prajnaparamita is the great transcendent mantra, is the great bright mantra, is the utmost mantra, is the supreme mantra, which is able to relieve all suffering and is true, not false. So proclaim the Prajnaparamita mantra, proclaim the mantra which says Gate, Gate, Para Gate, Para Samgate, Bodhisvaha Gate, Gate, Para Gate, Para Samgate, Bodhisvaha Gate, Gate, Para Gate, Para Samgate, Bodhisvaha.
So, so clearly that can be appreciated on at least a couple levels. One level is just the mesmerizing effect of the words, the chant, the sound of the words. And the other is the meaning of the words. Delving into the meaning of the words is a fraught exercise. And I want to preface this by saying that there are countless scholarly commentaries regarding the Heart Sutra, and this is not that. I am just sharing my current understandings of the Heart Sutra with you in an effort to, with hopes that to facilitate your understanding of the Heart Sutra. So that being said, the Heart Sutra has a, as most of these writings that we're studying, has an uncertain origin. And it is considered to be a distillation of a much, much larger work, the Prajnaparamita Sutta, Prajnaparamita Sutra, rather, which in its entirety is at least 600 volumes in size. So it is a very large work. And the vast majority of it has not been translated into English. So where did this come from? Do we know where this came from? Well, there are very well-known Chinese versions of the Heart Sutra in Chinese characters. And behind me actually is a version of the Heart Sutra in Chinese characters. But there are also Sanskrit versions of the Heart Sutra. And there is scholarly debate about which came first. There is a story that is recorded in the diary of Sun Jian that tells about that he was one of the initial translators of the Heart Sutra, purportedly, and his version is the one that is used most widely around the world in either in Chinese or in translation from Chinese. He lived in the 7th century and was a remarkable person. He was a Buddhist monk who lived in north central China and was intently interested in finding out as much about the Buddhist tradition as he could. And there were limited texts available at the time in China. So he had an idea of taking a long journey back to the origin, back to northern India, where these Buddhist texts were originated, and he had no other means of getting there than to go on foot. Now, at the time, there was a travel ban in China. You had to get permission in order to leave, and there were strict rules about who could leave and who could not leave, and that sort of thing. So he defied those rules, and as a young man in his 20s, took off to head to northern India. Now, this was quite a journey, and I'll share one other thing here if I can. Just to give you an idea of the extent of his travels. They went from, as I mentioned, north central China all the way across to what's currently Uzbekistan, and then back through what's currently Pakistan, and then he wandered all the way through central and southern India and got back to Nalanda University, which was his ultimate destination. It took him 3 years to get to Nalanda University, and he was gone from China for a total of 16 years in this quest. When my son was in college, he had a friend from China, and at that time, and this was many years ago, I purchased a book about Xuan Sang rather, and I was carrying it with me, and we met with his friend, and his friend noticed this, and he said, "Oh, do you know that Xuan Sang is a folk hero in China, not just among Buddhists, but among everybody. Everybody considers him a great folk hero for making this trek." On his return, he brought with him many artifacts, sculptures, artworks. But he also brought with him, as I understand it, like 600 scrolls containing Buddhist texts that he had obtained or copied when he was on his journey. So, what does this have to do with the Heart Sutra? Well, before he left on this remarkable trek, he was in China still and encountered a monk who was basically homeless and very sick. And he took pity on him and took him to a monastery where he could get some help. He assisted him in getting there and basically advocated for him. And as a gesture of thanks, since this monk had no material offerings to give him, he taught him the Heart Sutra. And he advised that he use this on his trip to protect him as more or less a talisman or a mantra that he could use on his journey. And since his journey involved going across the Gobi Desert and encountering bandits and encountering blizzards and torrential rains and severe cold and heat, he used the Heart Sutra as a means to offer comfort and protection for him on his journey. And there are more particular details of that, which I won't go into. So, I would like to talk a little bit about the text. We won't get very far today. We'll be spending a few sessions on this, but I would like to just start with the title. Well, first of all, in the Xuanzang translation, there is no title up at the top. But in other translations, there is a title at the end, which is not unusual, I guess, in these Chinese manuscripts. And the title at the end, the full title, reads Mahaprajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. That is the full title in Sanskrit. And in Japanese, they transliterate that and they say Maka Hanya Paramita Shinyo, or Shin Heart Yo Sutra. So, and this commonly is referred to in short as the Heart Sutra, but that is the full title. So Maha, great. Great is the usual translation for that. Prajna requires some discussion. In fact, a lot of discussion, but prajna is usually translated as wisdom. And it's a compound word, pra and nya. And pra means like before, is the usual translation, and nya is usually translated knowledge. So before knowledge, or beyond knowledge is another way of looking at it. And sometimes the word prajna is translated as wisdom beyond wisdom. It refers, as you'll see, as we get farther along in this, to more of an intuitive wisdom rather than a cognitive, discursive type of wisdom. Prajna paramita. Paramita literally means, well, there are a couple different theories about etymology of this word as well. And one is that it refers to other shore, which is probably the more likely etymology. which I'll explain in a minute, but the other possible etymology is that it means complete or perfect. So it depends on how you break up the word. So paramita, other shore, this is a common trope in Buddhist literature, is referring to nirvana or enlightenment or awakening as the other shore, as if you're passing across from the one shore of worldly existence, samsara, the world of expectations and disappointments and good and evil and hope and despair, passing across to the shore of peace and wisdom, the other shore. Hridaya, the next word, Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya. Hridaya is usually translated as heart, but actually there is another meaning, and the pun may be intended here in Sanskrit. Another meaning is mantra. So, and a mantra, of course, is a sacred utterance, something where not so much the literal meaning is important so much as just the sounds of the words. And I think you could almost get a taste of that listening to the video, how if you just step back and not pay attention to what they're saying, the sounds of the words, the rhythm of the words are mesmerizing. And that holds true in various languages as well, and not just the English translation that we listen to. But it usually is translated as heart. And then there's sutra. Sutra, of course, comes from the root meaning thread, something that ties things together. And it refers to a teaching, specifically a teaching of the Buddha. So the full title in English translation, at least the version that was distributed to our list, and if you didn't get one, you can request one and we'll send it along, is Heart of Great Perfect Wisdom Sutra. The translation we're using, by the way, is from the Soto Zen Association, based in Kyoto, but it is also they have a North American office in Los Angeles, and they've tried to sort of standardize the translation that is used in Zen centers, Zen temples throughout North America. And their full title is Heart of Great Perfect Wisdom Sutra. Heart of Great Perfect Wisdom Sutra. One thing you notice as you're listening to this is how many no's there are. And that follows a tradition in various traditions, not only in Buddhism, but in Judaism and Christianity and Islam, the so-called apophatic tradition, where you define things by negation. So there's a lot of no, 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 not this, not that, not this, not that, in the Heart Sutra. And we'll be discussing all that in future sessions. So, so as not to go along too long today, I know this was kind of an introduction and may not have given you much to work with, but I thought it was important to include some of this information to really kind of understand where this is coming from and where it's going. But I think there are some questions to consider here. And one is, I mentioned that this is chanted and that it is in some circles used as kind of a mantra or a talisman. There are some schools of Buddhism where the Heart Sutra is just chanted routinely once or twice a day as a practice. So I guess the question is, how does that hit you? Does that some people are drawn to sort of liturgical practice, to chanting, to mantras, and other people are repelled by it, and others are just curious about the whole thing. So I want, and it's often based on past experiences, I think, but I wonder how that strikes you. And I wonder how what it felt like to just listen to the sound of the words of the Heart Sutra. So again, in coming weeks, we'll be talking much more about the text itself, but I wanted to discuss the origin as much as we know it and the title today. Thank you very much for listening. And we'll go into breakout rooms at this point, and we'll see you back in a few moments.